So I guess we are on air here. I would like to welcome everybody to our webinar on sustainable mining, hosted by Vinnova. We are very happy to have representatives from a broad spectrum from both our innovations team systems here in Brazil and in Sweden. And this is the last of 4 webinars about our bilateral cooperation. Yesterday and earlier today, we had webinars on smart cities, bioeconomy and health. This webinar is a part of our dialogue within our common action plans, which have been developed during this year between the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation here in Brazil and our Minister of Enterprise and Innovation in Sweden. So thank you for joining us and taking part of this exciting new way forward. And also please visit our homepage, sbii.org, for more information about our collaboration, or join our LinkedIn group Sweden-Brazil Innovation Initiative. And some practical information. This webinar is intended to be around 75 minutes. Questions to the speaker can be asked in the Q&A, and we will try to answer after the panel discussion, or else we will answer them after the webinar. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for this session, Karin Willquist. Dr. Karin Willquist is the senior researcher at RISE, the Research Institute of Sweden, and she's the senior project manager at the company Fortum Recycling and Waste, and she holds a PhD in biotechnology with the research area of water treatment technologies, circular economy, and bioenergy. And Karin Willquist is the point of contact in our bilateral cooperation between Sweden and Brazil in the area of sustainable mining, and sitting in the executive group in the strategic innovation program Swedish Mining Innovation, where she contributes with her expertise with the sustainability and remediation area. So I will give the word to Karin, but just before we start, we will see a short video with greeting from our Swedish Minister of Innovation.
Hello everyone, my name is Ibrahim Baylan. I'm the Minister for Business, Industry and Innovation of Sweden. It is a great pleasure for me to be part of the session on smart, safe and sustainable mining. Built on the Memorandum of Understanding on Sustainable Mining, this event will seek to foster strategic partnerships in various segments of the mining industry, engaging the public, private and academic sectors of both our countries. I therefore warmly welcome this opportunity to meet and discuss key themes for the future of a sustainable mining industry. Now, Sweden has a long history of mining and metal refining, stretching back more than 1,000 years. The mining industry remains important for Sweden, and we are today one of the European Union's leading ore and metal producing countries. Thanks to the economic importance of the mining industry and sector, we have a diversified base of industrial suppliers today, with several globally leading companies in the mining sector. I would like to mention 3 important and interlinked factors that have contributed to the development of Swedish mining industry. First, the close collaboration between different stakeholders in the mining sector, the mining companies and the mining equipment providers. Secondly, our innovation and specialization. Thirdly, the strong commitment to sustainability, environmental protection and resource efficiency in the mining sector. Now, one of the greatest challenges of today is the transformation of our industries to become climate neutral. Sweden has adopted a goal of 0 net greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. I would like to mention that the mining and mineral industry in Sweden has identified electrification as one of the most important paths to fossil-free production. The industry will carry out an electrification and automation program that, together with a transition to biofuels, will make mining operations fossil-free by 2035. We believe that global innovation cooperation is necessary for the development of a sustainable and competitive mining business. I see great potential for cooperation in this respect between Sweden and Brazil. By being partners, we benefit all from this. My wish is therefore that this conference can help strengthening the already strong collaboration between the Brazilian mining industry and the companies in the Swedish Mining Alliance, and to inspire to new sustainable solutions, to exchange ideas, create new networks and business opportunities. Dear participants, thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all the best for a very successful event.
Thank you, Mr. Bayram. So I also then would like you very much to welcome you to this, I agree, very exciting event. And as we heard also from Jakob in the beginning, it is the last event of this co-creation days, but it's actually the first event of a planned, many planned event that has been established within the working plan of Brazil and Sweden. And we heard here that we are aiming for fossil-free mining. And this is the mission that we are embarking on today. And you heard Ibrahim Bayram today, but also yesterday you heard many politicians, funding agencies and experts in Brazil as well as in Sweden to also talk about the importance to work mission-oriented and within collaborations. And as we also heard now, the climate is a very central sustainability goal of the UN goals. And we know in order for us to become fossil-free, we actually need metals. And those metals, that's a big question. Can they also then, the production of those metals, can they also become fossil-free? And what we will try to find out today and further on, of course, is if we can collaborate better, could we reach this goal? And also, I'm very happy that I have a very good panel with me today that will help us explore this and understand the challenges as well as what's actually been done within this topic. And I would like introduce my panel from the Brazilian side. I will start with Claudio Schneider, who has a PhD in extractive metallurgy from the University of Utah. And after which he was also a professor at Utah University in the Department of Metallurgical Engineering. And since 2002, he has been the senior technologist from CETEM, MCTI. Sorry, but you will have to explain that later for the audience. But it's a ministry, so, and then I'm also very interested to have Claudio with us today, since his main research topic has been within modeling and simulation of mineral processing system. And he's also been collaborated with research institutions worldwide and engineering projects around this topic. So giving them another industrial point of view, I'm very happy also to be able to introduce to you Mauricio Duarte, who is working with Vale, the big mining company in Brazil, since 2011. And he started been working as a technology scout, where he's actually been supporting Vale in finding solutions to its problem. And in 2018, he moved to the PowerShift program, which is focusing of identifying potential technologies that can bring this step change reduction in greenhouse emission. And he's also been responsible for establishing partnerships. So it's going to be very interesting to hear more about what you have to say, Eduardo. So also in the panel, we have Eduardo Soriano Lozada, who is the Director of Applied Technologies at the Ministry of Science, Technology, Innovation and Communication. And he is also the point of contact for the Brazilian-Sweden collaboration. And he's been working within mining, energy, oil and gas, and materials, as well as other areas like space and defense. And his focus has been to increase the results for the companies, technology transfer, startup, entrepreneurship, application of technologies, and similar approaches. So it's going to be very interesting to have you also in the panel today. From the Swedish side, we have Jenny Greberg, who is the point of contact together with me for the bilateral collaboration of sustainable mining from the Swedish side. And Jenny is the director of the Swedish Strategic Innovation Program that is called Swedish Mining Innovation. Aside from that, she's also associate professor and acting chaired professor at Luleå University of Technology, where her research subject is mining and rock engineering. And there is not much to know about mining in Sweden that Jenny is not familiar with. So it's a very big pleasure to have you here today. And also a big pleasure to have is Jonas Ranggård, who is the energy manager from Boliden. And he will then give the Swedish industrial outlook of the fossil-free mission. And Jonas is managing Boliden's mine strategic work, and he's as well as questions around energy and CO2 targets. And he's also coordinating the research and development resources within energy at Boliden Technologies. And he's also then the project manager of many of the strategic projects around electrification of mining equipment and mine ventilation. So it's a very good panel that we have today, and I hope we will have very interesting discussion afterwards. So, but then I would like to give the screen to Jenny.
Good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me here today, and thank you for that nice introduction, Karin and Jakob. So I will try to give a very brief overview of the present state in Sweden right now when it comes to fossil-free mining. But I will start my presentation with just a brief description of this national Swedish mining innovation program, what it is and what we do. Okay. Yes, the Swedish Mining Innovation Program is an industry-driven innovation program, and it started in 2013. It's basically open to all stakeholders that can contribute to the vision and the goals of the program, and the funding comes 50% from the public agencies, Vinnova, Formas and Energimyndigheten, and 50% from the companies that participate in the program. We have a steering board consisting of industry, institutes and academia, and the foundation for this is that it's supposed to be innovation in collaboration. So between industry, academia, institutes, but also NGOs and other actors. And basically what we do in order to reach the vision that we have is that we have innovation projects, strategic projects. We do some related to education, to support education. We also have a PhD network, and we have several symposiums and workshops. We also have a yearly innovation ID competition, and we have an award that we have every year in November, so it's coming up next week, to the best Swedish mining innovation of the year. We also work a lot with internationalization and outreach in order to find partners globally that can work with us towards the goals that we have. And basically everything we do in the program has the basis in the National Research and Innovation Roadmap for the mining and metal producing industry. This is a document that we developed the first time 2013, and now we are working with the third version of this one. And this is developed by the Swedish companies together with equipment and system suppliers and institutes and universities. So it's a joint innovation strategy. And the vision that's stated in this document is that Sweden should be a role model for social, economic, and environmentally sustainable mining and metal production. Okay, and the areas we're working is along the full mining value chain, from exploration to actually closing down mines. And also we have in the circles to the right there, you see the challenges, the main challenges we're working with, and you all recognize them. It's related to secure supply, sustainable supply of mineral resources and resource efficiency. It's production efficiency, electrification and reduced climate impact, digitalization, automation, reduced environmental impact, and socially sustainable mining and competence supply. So it's a very wide area. And coming now to the present state in Sweden regards to fossil-free mining. In 2018 and 2019, the companies and universities developed a roadmap for long-term competitiveness and fossil-free mining and minerals industry. And this roadmap can be downloaded in the Swedish Mining Association's website or in the Swedish Mining Innovation's website. So please have a look at that one. But in general, this sector generates 7 to 9% of the total carbon dioxide emissions in Sweden. Fossil fuels are still used in multiple parts of the industry's value chain, and the greenhouse gas emissions arise from transport and mining operations and from the processing of iron ore, metal ores, limestone, and cement. Most of the emissions come from production of the iron ore pellets, the smelting of the ore to metals, and also from the limestone and cement production. We do have many processes and technologies in use already, which are fossil-free, particularly in the mining operations. And we have, for instance, electrified mining equipment and so on. And you will hear more from Mr. Ranggård later about that. Also, digitalization is a really good tool to continue to drive efficiency and in that sense, reducing the overall energy, fuel, and requirements. So initiatives to further reduce the use of fossil fuels in mining are also underway. And the fossil fuels and related emissions, they still arise in transportation and in parts of the mining process that is not already electrified. And I will talk more about that later. And also in the, of course, thermochemical processing of ores and minerals. So as Minister Baylan mentioned, we have a goal in Sweden to have fossil-free mining operations by 2035. So according to this roadmap, we think we can reach that goal, and we know that the technology will be available. I would say what's the biggest worry is the implementation of this, if we manage to do this by 2035. But basically, further automation and digitalization will also reduce the energy needs and therefore also reduce in more efficient and optimized operations. Infrastructure for charging and possibly alongside hydrogen tanking will also complement a strengthened electricity distribution network. And some of the initiatives going on right now is the big project that LKB and partners are running. It's called Sustainable Underground Mining, SUM, where they aim for a fully electrified and automated mining operation. Also, as you will hear from Mr. Ranggård lately, Boliden is working intensively with electric trolleys and other things. Epiroc, the Swedish equipment supplier, are focusing more and more towards battery-driven mining equipment, and they have several already available equipment in their product range that's battery-driven. When it comes to processing, that we believe is going to take a little bit longer. We have the goal to reach that goal in 2045. And we think that by then, iron ore processing can be CO2-free through hydrogen-based reduction. And we also think that process heat for pellets production can be provided by the CO2-free energy, either bioenergy or indirectly from electricity. And in the processing of limestone, indirect electric heating and or biomass can be used as well. And process emissions will be managed through carbon capture storage or carbon capture utilization. And two of the big initiatives that's going on here is the biggest one, probably most well-known on, is hybrid with LKB, Vattenfall and SSAB trying to create fossil-free steel and use hydrogen as a reducing agent. And we have a project also called Zero, which was focusing on the cement and try to electrify cement production. So big efforts are being done here as well. And then next, what's coming up next and what could be possibly collaboration topics for us? Well, both the development of existing technologies and an eventual shift to the new technologies and processes will be required. We know that. We also need that the fossil-free mining and metal sector, we need to use much more electricity and bioenergy than it does today. We know that biofuel can replace some of the fossil fuels already today, but fuel properties and reliable supplies needs to be developed. Electric heating technologies, they can play a role in the long term, but these are too immature today to be trusted on. So to summarize the needs, well, we need to identify process routes and system solutions for fossil-free production of other metals and minerals as well. We need to continue the development of bio-based, electricity-based and hydrogen-based processes for producing iron, copper and other metals and minerals. That's an urgent priority. And also a lot of work needs to be done in order to enable carbon capture storage and carbon capture utilization. So the main challenges we see, I would say not in any particular order, but the permitting process is a challenge when developing these new processes. We also need a holistic approach to political decision-making that avoids suboptimal instruments that weaken competitiveness and make these fossil-free operations more difficult. Again, research and development for fossil-free production processes and carbon capture storage. Also to secure access to fossil-free electricity at a low total system cost and high reliability. That's a key for this. And access to bioenergy at a competitive price. So thank you. And if you want to know more about our program, please join us via social media or through the web and download also this fossil-free roadmap on our website. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, very much. So now you described some of the projects. So now we would like to hear a little bit more in details about the work that's going on at Boliden. So I would like to welcome Jonas to the. Yes.
Good. So yeah, Jonas Ranggård, I'm managing Boliden Mines energy program, and I will talk about how Boliden will approach electrification in mining. And I will start talking about why we are doing this. Usually when you talk about sustainability and so on, you talk about the green value. I mean, in saving the world and the planet and all of that. And sure, that is very important and should not be neglected. But what I find interesting is the past years or the recent events where the big capital has actually starting to realize that there's money to be made within being sustainable. This fellow, Mr. Larry Fink, he is the CEO of BlackRock, the world's largest asset management firm. And he actually sent out a CEO letter in, I think it was January, stating that from now on, BlackRock will only invest in companies that can prove that they are sustainable. And they motivated this to their stockholders simply that this will help them make more money. As I said, there's value in this. And if you think that this is like a PR trick, well, think again, because actually since then, BlackRock has voted against 55 directors at 49 different companies. Simply because they think that they are not sustainable enough.
Sorry, Mr. Soriano, can you turn off your microphone, please?
Has it done that? Yeah.
I think it's okay now.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry, you can continue.
Yeah, well, so it's obvious that we need to be that it's several reasons why we should be looking more into how we can lower our CO2 emissions. And I can just do a brief presentation on Boliden as a company. We are a metal company, so we have both mines and smelters, but I work for business area mines, so that's what I will focus at. We have 6 mining units, all located in Scandinavia except Tara in Ireland. We have 2 large open pit mines, Aitik and Kevitsa, and then we have underground operations in Boliden, Kylylahti, Garpenberg, and Tara. And we are mainly a zinc and copper mining company, but we also have, as you see, quite a lot of gold and silver. And if you want to track our CO2 emissions, you can see that roughly 50% is electricity and 50% is diesel. Sure, you have some propane and oil in explosives there, but mainly electricity and diesel. And sure, while the indirect CO2 emissions from our electric grid is important, as you can see, it's especially large in Ireland, where you have quite dirty electrical grid. That is not considered core for us. I mean, with the risk of sounding arrogant, that it is an easy task in the upcoming decade to simply sign contracts on more wind and solar, and that we are doing right now. We've been signing some really large contracts on wind power, for example, in Sweden and Finland. I think from the energy programs perspective, where we should put our R&D resources, that is to put them into electrification in mining equipment, because we need to lower our diesel consumption. Sure, we have a lot of mining equipment everywhere and heavy transportation on public road, but roughly 70% of all of the business areas mines is consumed by one vehicle type, and that is the large mining trucks in Aitik and Kevitsa. So these can't be neglected, and hence we've been focusing a lot on these vehicles in the past years. And as you might have heard of, in 2018 we built this trolley pilot line, as we call it. It's a 700-meter long test line on a waste rock ramp in Aitik. We converted 4 trucks and equipped them with pantographs, and it works pretty much in the same way that a train operates. It's they connect to overhead copper line using pantographs, and since these trucks are diesel electric to start with, it's quite an easy conversion to do. And when you power them using overhead lines, you can actually make them travel twice the speed, while the diesel consumption goes down to close to 0. The pilot has been really successful and generated a lot of attention. I just tried for my own sake to summarize everyone that's been reaching out to us in the past years, that we had Skype meetings with, and we set up a lot of site visits, and we try to share everything we know about this technology, help other mining companies with this as well. It's a little over a year now, the board made a decision that we should pretty much go all in using this technology, investing roughly $30 million in building more trolley lines in Aitik and Kevitsa, and convert even more trucks. So we will have in total 14 trolley capable trucks in Aitik and 13 in Kevitsa, and a couple of kilometers of trolley line on each site within a couple of years. So we are actually building the first in-pit trolley line in Aitik, and it should be up and running within a few weeks, 1 kilometer long. But I mean, even though you go all in building trolley lines everywhere where it's feasible, you still, at least in the Arctic conditions that we have, that we need to commit to building mainly during the summer. It makes things much easier, but also you can't really keep up with production. You will have heavily depending on mine design, but you will have ramps that have too low tonnage, too short lifespan. So you will only save 30 to 50%, and I'm sure that is really good. But I mean, we want to be fossil neutral, and that's why we have been looking heavily into combining trolley with battery. The truck that you see on the left side, that is a battery truck running on iron ore mine in Switzerland, and they have converted a couple of Komatsu trucks. They are, you can't really see that by the picture, but they're only 1/5 the size of the Caterpillar trucks in Aitik, but they are still considered large mining trucks. And they operate using only batteries. And the reason they can do that is because they have downhill haul, basically due to the fact that the mine is located on the side of a mountain. And while this is very interesting, it's not really applicable to basically any other mine, because most mines transport their ore upwards. But we see that if you combine trolley and battery, you can achieve a diesel-free hauling cycle. So that's what we have been focusing on a lot in the past years, and we hope that we can set up some kind of conversion within a few years. And I can just mention this also. Why not fuel cells? Because that is a question that I get a lot, especially now in the past couple of months, where Anglo America has did this press release that they will convert the Komatsu 930 truck to fuel cell power. I see that while, how should I put this? I really think that both technologies can exist at the same time, but hydrogen powered trucks does not make sense for us, because we have so cheap electricity and strong power grids that we don't need to have any on-site storage of energy, and therefore it's more profitable and sustainable for us to choose direct charging that you see to the left, compared to hydrogen, where you have quite a lot of energy losses in producing hydrogen from electrolysis, and you have energy losses in the fuel cells. But if you have a mine that have a weak electrical grid, for example, you might only have diesel generators and you want to invest in wind and solar to power the mine, then I can see that fuel cell or hydrogen powered trucks might make more sense. But we are focusing on trolley and batteries. So to summarize, there's value in being sustainable. Open pit mines is the most diesel intensive, so we focus on them. Trolley is a good solution to lower the emissions, and trolley will enable battery trucks and achieve diesel-free mines. So that's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonas. I think one big difference between Brazil and Sweden might be all this snow. But we will then like to hear more from the Brazilian side and your opinions and research and things going on there. So first of all, I would like to welcome Claudio.
All right. Well, I can see the use of this meeting because we need really to align things. I work at CETEM, which stands for Center for Mineral Technologies. And we are one of the research institutes of the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, where Soriano is at, right? CETEM is dedicated to mineral technologies. And it's the only institute of Brazil that is dedicated to a single team, right? I put here the mission of CETEM. We have obviously a sustainable compromise, you know, but we don't do this alone. We think that everything that we do should have partnerships so that we can achieve more with a small infrastructure. Vision statement is a really boring thing. Everybody has the same thing. But this is the thing that I needed to show you, which is the most important part. the three main activities of SETM are related to characterization of minerals. I think Jenny was showing something like that too. Chemical analysis of minerals and process mineralogy. We have a very big infrastructure, you know, for this kind of research and analysis. One of the big departments, one of the other two big departments is mineral processing. And also the third department, hydro and biometallurgical processing. Right? So these are the main three activities which SETM is always involved in. We don't have a department working on the mining activity, and we should have, but SETM is just not big enough to accommodate this yet. Maybe through this cooperation, you know, we can start talking about creating an activity that has focus on the mining side, and then we'll be working on the transportation to the mines. Right? Some other minor department in SETM is the gemstones. There's also a department that works on natural dimension stones, which is an important business for Brazil. We export a lot of dimension stones. There is a group working on sustainability on mining, but that's mainly on residues, contaminants, and social interaction between mining industry and people. And we also accredited producer of reference mineral samples. Here's a little bit more about SETM. We have about 100 professionals, you know, and 90% of us have doctorate degrees, and 300 permanent staff. Not very big, but not too small either. 22,000 square meter of constructed area. And also in where the dimension stone lab is another 1,500 meters square constructed area in a different city than Rio de Janeiro. In our infrastructure, you'll find 22 different laboratories and 5 pilot plants. Over the 38 years of existence of SETM, we have carried about 900 research projects and published 900 papers, right? It's like one paper per project, right? But these 900 papers are for the last 10 years. Published 65 technical books and have 6 technical series, you know, which is publication that goes periodically in our website, and we keep refurbishing those publications with new texts and every year. Then SETM has its strategic plan, which is called the unit strategic plan. One of the 3 main focus areas, one is water, energy, and residues. And the energy areas underline that because this is what this team is about. Another one is rare earths. Rare earths has a lot to do with generation of electricity, right, and wind power. So we have one of the directives of SETM is rare earths nowadays. Agro-minerals. Brazil is an agricultural country. We need a lot of phosphate and potassium for agriculture. So we are looking into this because these are basically mineral sources that has to do with the Brazilian economy. And dimension stones already talked about this. Let me talk about a little bit of an example of what we do in the energy side. Comminution, you know, represents a lot of energy expenditure. In the United States, the time I worked there, 3% of all the energy generated in the United States was spent in comminution. Grinding rocks is very energy intensive. An estimate that I have here in Brazil should be around 3% too, but maybe a little bit less. Efficient comminution, so it's critical for sustainability of mining, because this the amount of energy that we spend in comminution tends to increase in the future. Right? So one of the projects that I participated or took part recently is to design a new pellet feed mining plant. This involved characterization, physical and neurological properties of the ore, and then to establish a strategy for minimizing the water consumption. This new mine is going to be, if ever built, is going to be in a very arid place. So we are looking at magnetic separation instead of flotation, and recycle all the water, 100%. Also did some testing in our power plants, and we explored alternatives to minimize energy consumption in combustion. So how do you do this? In the right side of the screen, you see the flow sheet that I was designing for this crushing plant. And while I was doing this work, I was doing number of crushers and the size of the crushers. I took the information from Sandvik, right, which is a Swedish manufacturer of combustion equipment. Right? So everything is designed in terms of Sandvik products. But this is a very tough ore to break. You know, we needed 4 stages of crushers in order to get to the size that they be ready to grind and then concentrate the iron ores. So there's many alternatives to this type of approach. Also, one of the alternatives, instead of crushing and conventional grinding, ball mills, you can use autogenous grinding, for example. Autogenous grinding is advantageous because one autogenous mill can replace all of these crushers except the first one, and replace part of the ball milling that is carried out later on to get this iron ore in a pelletizing size, right, which is 75 micron size. The other alternative is high pressure grinding rolls, which is a very efficient way to grind particles, and the conventional, which is showing the design for it. And these arrows here show the results for these 3 different approaches, right? In the end of the day, for this ore and these characteristics, we found that the conventional way of grinding would requires 20.75 kilowatt hours per ton of grinding ore, right? So these numbers are very important for me to decide which way, I see that, Karin, to decide which way this thing is going to be crushed and ground, right? And this is same software that is used here and developed here is used in Luleå, for example, by Bertil Parsons. There are other alternatives too. So one of the things that I see that are important, that in this context of transportation and saving fossil fuel, is having the ability to design crushers to work in plant, in mine, right, in pit, it's called, so that the transportation is shorter. So this would be something like that. So I hope this gives you an idea of what we're doing in SETA nowadays. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudio, and I look forward to this discussion later. So then I would like to welcome Mauricio to take the screen.
Sorry about that.
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. So good morning, good evening, everyone. As Karin said, my name is Mauricio Duarte. I work in Vale's decarbonization program called PowerShift. And I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to talk about decarbonization in mining and opportunities for non-competitive collaboration. There's a great topics, great presentations from Claudio, Jenny, Jonas, Karin, and Bring as well. So thank you. And if there's any further question that we might not address today, my email is on the first slide. So please feel free to contact me. So the usual disclaimers, I mean, this presentation, we're talking about future technologies. We can only make analysis. We cannot guarantee that everything is going to be proven right. So first of all, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Vale. Vale is a global mining company where the world leader in the production of iron ore pellets, and nickel, amongst other minerals and metals. We can be found almost everywhere, but we are most known for our open open pit mines in Brazil, our underground mines in Canada, but we also have operations in Mozambique, Indonesia, and New Caledonia. And in Brazil, we mostly produce iron ore and iron ore pellets with some nickel and copper. And in Canada, it's mostly nickel. So first of all, just adding a bit some context. So Vale, we had previously announced some ESG targets related to climate change and electricity, which were later revised to be much more aggressive. So now we claim to be carbon neutral by 2050, and also to have 100% of clean electricity for all of our operations worldwide by 2030. And we also announced the ambition to lead the transition to carbon neutral mining. And finally, we announced a carbon pricing of $50 per ton of CO2 equivalent, which we'll get back on that number. And then in 2020, we announced that we will have a scopes 1 and 2 target of reduce our emissions by a third by 2030, regardless of any increase in production. So even if we increase our production, our targets, especially per ton, will keep getting stricter and stricter. So to meet those challenges, Vale created the PowerShift program in 2018. And the PowerShift program, we're focusing on cleaning our energy matrix. As Jonas said, I mean, scopes 2 is probably easier. So we're focusing mostly on scopes 1 now. And as he said, large mining trucks and surface mining operations is our biggest priority right now in that space. But we also have initiatives in the underground mining. So we have the Kiruna trucks, I've been trialing some Epiroc and Sandvik equipment. But we're also focusing quite a lot on railways because actually, unlike Boliden, the single largest consumer of diesel in Vale is our locomotives, because we have to transport over 300 million tons of iron ore between our mines and our ports in Brazil. And unfortunately, our mines are quite distant to the port. And we also have a lot of emissions. Most of our emissions share is from metallurgical processes. So like what Claudio was talking about earlier, but we feel like we have more strong opportunity at this moment with the mobile equipment, mostly because diesel is a more expensive fuels than natural gas, for example. But you talk more about that in a few minutes. And we are trying to be technology agnostic in all of these spaces because to reach our targets, we need a solution for the assets that we have today. We need solutions for assets that we're buying 5 years from now, and you need solutions for equipment that will be running until 2025. Oh, sorry, 2050. So there's not a one-size-fits solution for Vale. And I like to say that we need really sustainable solutions, but sustainable because they're clean, they're robust, they can operate in these conditions, and they are cost competitive. And we have already several ongoing projects. So we have our first battery electric shunter, the 2 MWh electric equipment. It's no diesel. We also, as I mentioned, we are trialing underground electric equipment as well. And we also been trialing biofuels, especially in the production of iron ore pellets in Brazil. But those are the ones that we can disclose right now. So we want to talk some about our portfolio of options. So currently we're assessing several dozens projects so we can meet our targets. So this is the decision-making tool that we use. So just if you can indulge me for a few minutes. So this is our marginal abatement cost curve, in which we have all of our current projects that we are assessing. And if we have more than one solution for a specific challenging, we just included the most competitive one. So on the vertical axis, you can see the marginal abatement cost for the technology. So what's the cost for the increase or the reduction of costs to save 1 metric ton of CO2 equivalent? In the horizontal axis, we have our cumulative greenhouse gas emissions that we need to reach by 2030. And we also have our goal, it's a reduction of 8.9 million tons of CO2 per year. And also our shadow pricing for carbon, that's $50 per ton. So the projects that are highlighted here are the projects that we can both reduce cost and reduce emissions at the same time. So these are our priorities right now, but this includes our Scope 2 emissions from our electricity. But then we have projects which are not economically feasible as of now, but they can be with the carbon pricing that we have set out for ourselves. I think it's also very important to tell that it's not based on jurisdiction. This is for Vale. But of course, as you can see, we have several projects above that line. So first of all, I think it's clear that we do not have enough projects in our portfolio to meet our targets. And the other issue that we have is that very few of these projects are mature technologies. So this brings to a situation that we need more projects and we need to increase the maturity development of the solutions. And we feel like the only way that you can get there is through collaboration. And we feel very strongly about collaboration. And we have been talking with several, not only OEMs and new OEMs, but also our peers. And because we feel like collaboration on technology, specifically about decarbonization, should not be a part of the competitive agenda. But on the other hand, we need to increase the rate of development of these solutions. So even though there's several ways to collaborate, as it shows here, we can keep talking, we can brainstorm ideas, we can share information, but we feel like joint pilots is the best way to move forward. And so we can share costs, we can de-risk the technologies, we can make sure that the technology is really sustainable. And so what I'm trying to get across here, if you have an idea, if you have a project, please think of us, because we are committed to be a reference in sustainability. We already have lots of projects going on. We have learned a lot in the last 3 years. We believe that the only way we can get to where we need to be, where the sector needs to be, is through industry-wide collaboration. And we believe that joint pilots with the right people, the right mindset is the best way to get there. So please consider Vale as a partner for collaboration in the decarbonizing of the mining sector. So thank you all.
And thank you, Mauricio, for the last presentation of today. So now we're going to start the discussion. And I think you already brought in one of the subjects, which is collaboration. But before we get into that, I would like to ask Jenny, as the first speaker of today. You gave a presentation about what's going on in Sweden, and we have also heard what's going on in Brazil. So in your point of view, do you think we are on the right track? And do you think this goal or this mission is going to be feasible, or do we need something radically different?
Well, I think, given by the initiatives we know that are ongoing and what we've heard today, we know that the technology development is proceeding rapidly. And I believe that's not going to be our main problem. The main problem is implementation of the new technologies. And when talking to Epiroc, for instance, they say that one of their problems is that it's not easy to find customers that are willing or daring to try new technologies like battery powered equipment and so on. So to me, it's not the technology development that's probably the biggest thing, it's the implementation of it. But I'm hopeful. I think the strategy holds, and I think it's very positive to hear that we all have, both countries have set targets, like national goals for when we're going to be fossil free. That's good.
Thank you. Yes, Claudio, do you have anything to add from that, and from your perspective from the Brazilian side?
Well, see, Brazil is kind of different because I don't know if you guys know that, but the Brazilian energy matrix is already about 70% of it is hydroelectric power. So, I mean, we are more advanced than everywhere in the world, and not using fossil energy. We also have a lot of potential to produce a lot of biofuel, right, with sugarcane. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now you can see. Yeah,
yes,
biofuel is.
So you feel like and what Mauricio will be able to say later, but you feel like we are definitely on the right track, and you don't see a big challenge from Brazil in considering the energy mixture that you have.
If I would say Vale is responsible for 50% or 55% of all the Vale that is mined in Brazil. Companhia Vale, right? Mauricio's company.
Yeah.
If they are doing this, then we are halfway through, right? So that's basically what I see.
Good. So Mauricio, I guess you may agree on this, but I wanted to ask you a little bit. So because you are in your plot that you were showing that we are on the right track. There are some things that are easily implemented where you can also see a profit in, but then other projects are a little bit farther away. So do you feel like we heard from Joachim Appelquist yesterday, he was saying that we need some kind of innovation in a way. Do you think that we need something drastically different, or do you think it's more on respect of scaling up, like Jenny was referring to?
Yeah, I think like Jenny was saying, I think, I mean, mining companies are conservative in the adoption of the technologies, some less than others. But the mining environment is still quite a challenge for some of these applications. And I don't think most of us are not willing to risk the operational side, but there is also the matter of health and safety. And we also need to deal with the consequences of the adoption of these technologies. So we have to train our equipment, we have train our staff, have to upskill some of these people. We have to think about how we would dispose of these batteries. And so there's a lot of things that need to come together to make sure that we can adopt these technologies in a sustainable way. And so we are taking some risks. We're trying to mitigate all of these risks. I know that's probably the same for Jonas as well when they saw the trolley lines. But some of the technologies are quite new. There are not enough standards out there. So we need to, as I said, to come together. And because, I mean, we need to get there. I mean, there's no question about it. And so, as I said, we feel like collaboration. So way to do.
Yeah.
Visual trucks is like 45 tons and they operate downhill. So as Jonas was saying, we need 300-ton trucks that operate uphill. So there's still quite a lot of challenges.
Yeah, good. So Jonas, referring to this as well, and a little bit what Jenny was saying, that there is a need for companies to take this risk, and what Mauricio is saying, that we should collaborate. I remember from one of the presentation from Boliden before that Boliden has seen itself to be a valuable kind of test bed. Do you think that there could be like multiple kind of test bed in the world, and that will really help each of the companies out? Is that a good approach, or what is your opinion about that, Jonas?
Yeah. Well, that is a very good question. I mean, this is an approach that Boliden has had in not only electrification but also automation, to simply be a site provider to develop new technology, so that we can influence the design and help fast implementation. And then, as I mentioned in my presentation, of course, try to be open and collaborate and communicate learnings from the new technology on our sites, because we have nothing to benefit from keeping the technology to ourselves. I mean, collaborating with much larger mining companies such as Vale, for example, will definitely help us in bringing costs down and raise awareness of the positive aspects of these new technologies.
Thank you. So we changing topic a little bit here. We have you said in the beginning of your presentation, Jonas, that capital money is now directed towards sustainability, and we actually have one of the Q&A question is also about the Sustainable Investment Fund. And so I wonder, is that the main reason, or the main kind of incentives to look at this fossil free, or is there other kind of business models that are relevant, like traceability or something else that you see is something where you can make money of being fossil free in your metal production?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure if I understood the question correctly, but
I mean, the business incentives, more or less, for doing.
Yeah, I mean, I as I mentioned, I'm quite cynical about this. I mean, I think it's quite obvious that it's not until now that big capital has started to raise awareness that things actually start to happen. And I mean, sure, I could brag to other mining companies about how good Boliden are in electrification of our mining equipment, but I mean, one large aspect of that is due to the fact that we have the most expensive diesel in the world also. So, I mean, sometimes when we have this kind of collaboration meetings with other mining companies in the world, with other enthusiastic engineers that try to make their like Excel worksheets fit together and have a positive outcome of electrification, and then they ask me, what do you pay for your diesel? And I say, well, $1.20 per liter, and they say, oh, we only pay half that. So, I mean, we come from a different side, I think, and I, even though you can argue about like the negative aspects of high diesel prices and competitiveness between mining companies, I mean, still money will continue to be the main driving factor. It's not the most positive, I mean, message that you want to present, but still, and that is also why it's so important to collaborate on the technologies to bring the costs down, because it's not until that you reach that critical point where trolley or battery mining equipment, for example, starts to become profitable. It's not until then that things really start to happen.
That's quite interesting. I thank you for your honesty here and good discussion climate. Actually, I would like to pose then that question a little bit to Soriano, coming from the ministry in Brazil. but having the focus on entrepreneurship and new companies and helping new companies. Do you feel like there is something that the government in Brazil could do to stimulate this type of innovation?
First of all, it's very important that in Brazil, after the 2 accidents in 2 dams in Brazil, the imaging of the mining sector is not very good. We have to increase the public imaging. I think that is very important to invest in fossil-free mines and to increase the safety of the dams. Perhaps it's a good idea, because you have to increase the quality of the work safety, the health of the work. But in terms of entrepreneurship, our secretariat is investing a lot of money in creating new solutions for the companies. We have big programs to promote entrepreneurship, but not specific for the mining sector. We have a general instrument to drive the innovation in all the areas. But in some cases, we are investing in specific areas. For example, in transportation sector, we have some investments in transportation sector because we have a law specific for the transportation sector. In terms of electrification, for us, it's very important to electrify the cars, the vehicles, the buses, but I think that is very important not only to electrify, to see if put only the electricity, it's the best solution. I think that perhaps the hybrid transportation, the hybrid equipment, for example, including the mine is perhaps a good solution. A hybrid with not diesel, but a hybrid with biofuels, but for the mining sector is very expensive, synthetic fuels. This approach, it's very important for us. But in terms of collaboration, I think that it's possible to establish some collaboration in fossil-free mining in terms of automation, digitalization. We have strong investment in digitalization, but not specific for the mining sector. We have specific investment, for example, for health sector. As previous workshop, we have a specific investment for digitalization of agricultural sector, but not a specific investment or a specific focus for the mining sector. But we are open to create some opportunities or to create specific areas that will have some common interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's very good. Maybe this collaboration could continue and lead to this type of new investment and new kind of initiatives. That would be great, I think. So we have been talking about we have been talking about the trucks, and that seems to be a very common interest between Vale and Boliden. We also have touched on automatization. So Claudio, a little bit what you and also Soriano now mentioned. Claudio, you ended your talk about that. Is that something that you would like to go a little bit more deeper into this discussion about automatization and?
Well, Sweden is probably much more prepared and ahead of Brazil, in terms of automation strategies. There are some packages that we use that are produced in Sweden. And I think there is a possibility of cooperation there and in many other areas, not only transportation in mine. Right? So that's something that we should look at. Usually when you use automation, the efficiency of everything is improved because there is not much oscillation in processes and everything works much better. And because Soriano is pointing that that's the way, one of the ways to go, that should be something that we should look at. Can I say something else about Jonas' talk?
Yes, please.
Yeah, one of the things that you have to consider, you want companies to go electric, right? What is the capital cost that you are going to have when you buy a diesel truck and when you buy electric truck, right? Usually, if the electric trucks are more energy efficient, right? So the sustainability of electric trucks is better. But if the capital costs are higher, then there is a favor for diesel trucks because the interest rates are smaller or too high. So these kind of things, the company that manufactures the electric trucks would have to maintain a competitive price, instead of they see all this demand and then the price goes up. So this is one of the perspective that we have in many other things, not only trucks, but also crushing and grinding equipment, processing equipment, everything is like that. Every time they develop something more efficient, next thing price goes up, and then capital costs kind of over set everything. So it's a problem.
It's something for the technology developers to look into. Just very shortly, Jenny, you mentioned in your talk a little bit about the biofuels, and also Mauricio mentioned that, and Claudia now when you're talking about the diesel. Both we heard earlier today it's a big issue both in Sweden and in Brazil, the bioeconomy. So do you see that there could be collaboration between the two countries, but also maybe between the different sectors in order to make this mission-oriented happen, the fossil-free mission happen?
Yes, Karin, of course. And I think, you mentioned it yourself, we need to be more mission oriented and challenge oriented than actually sector based. So yes, of course, there's probably a lot of things we can do that. I'm not myself an expert in biofuels or biomasses, but I know that we have, in Sweden, we have a similar program for bio innovation, and we also spend a lot of our public funding towards that sector. So I think, of course, there are things we can do together.
Well, thank you. Actually, that more or less conclude. I would like to thank all of you. Very interesting discussion and open discussion today. And I hope all of you in the audience have had a nice insight is what's going on. And I didn't see any more question than more like a statement in the question. That's why I didn't open for that. But I really would did appreciate the day and appreciate to follow this development further between the two countries. So thank you all. And Jakob, please.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I would really like to thank first of all, Vinnova for arranging this webinar, and of course, all our panelists for participating with this very valuable discussion, which I hope will continue. It's very fundamental for our cooperation between Sweden and Brazil in sustainable mining. And of course, I also want to thank you all our attendees who has been watching this, and I can just inform that we have this homepage, and I mentioned before, sbii.org, where we have a lot of information about this cooperation, and we will put more information there on also the result of those webinars we have had here. So once again,